What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I am your host, the real Jussy of the Distorted Theorists, and today, if you are watching this video, it's going to be so cool because I'm about to do a Chhaava movie review. That's right, this just hit Netflix today here in Canada, and you know, everyone in our DMs, all in the comments from my trailer reactions for Chhaava, has been telling us you've got to watch this movie and do a review, and I did just that today. But before I get into talking about Chhaava and the great movie that it was, as always, if you want to support our channel, we do appreciate if you would just take 1 second to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, leave me a comment down below if you've seen the film and what you thought of it. And also, if you really like what we do here on the channel, make sure you head down and hit that super thanks and give anything you can to help support our channel. It helps get new equipment, new merch, and more content for you. Vicky stars as the titular character. Now listen, this is a very historical, accurate piece. Many of you may know it is based off the real, sorry, I have my notes here, Chhatrapati Sambhaji Maharaj. Okay, like I seen the trailer, he is action heavy. You can see why this movie was made of him and his impact on history. I mean, we have Hinduism versus Islam, and well, without his contribution, we don't know where India would be right now in that power struggle, in that domain. He was there to protect his, I think it was Deccan, which is his territory, if you will. But of course there's invaders, and I'm not really talking about, the movie didn't focus on the invasions of any British or French or anything like that, but it does focus on the Islam and followers and how they were trying to get in to take over and just basically take away rights. I mean, the movie opens up with the tyrant Aurangzeb. He was basically like, we have to eliminate anyone who doesn't believe in this. But of course, Sambhaji just became king because his dad had passed away. And of course, the Mughals, they thought that, well, now that the dad is dead, we have won, but not the case, because the Chhatrapati Sambhaji, he is taken over, he put the crown on, and he knows what has to be done. Now, as I said, this is based off a real historical character and story. I believe, don't quote me on this, I seen the movie and you guys were blowing up our comments. He's been in like 120 plus wars and has lost none. He only lost, and I'll get to it in a second, he only lost this movie because there was some traitors that, turned their back on him, which it's very emotional at the end. Well, the whole movie is emotional, but it was very emotional at the end, even for me. And I don't know the history as well as I'm sure some of you watching here. So it was really cool to learn and see that unfold on screen. But I digress. The movie opens up with the tyrant, Aurangzeb. He thinks he's won because the dad has passed, but he quickly gets word that Sambhaji Maharaj is rising up, and of course there's that huge action sequence. I forget the city name, but basically him and his army of Hindus, they enter. He jumps over as you know, the thing crosses over like that, the barricade, if you will, and everyone goes and puts their shield and the horses run over it. I thought that was really cool cinematography. I'm just trying to think. And then of course there's just so much bloodshed and it's very gory. There's the first guy gets a sword up through his, listen, I was all in. It was cool to see the tyrant, but then of course you have the Mughal emperor is more of a tyrant, and then you have Sambhaji Maharaj is more, he's more, what's the word I'm looking for? He's more respected. The other one does it more out of fear. He does it more out of love. So it's really cool. Right away, you get that exposition on the two characters that are eventually going to come to a head. But that brings me to my next point, actually. The sweeping shots. One thing I loved about this movie is that big pull out or pull in that they did when there was a big army on screen, like moving over a wasteland or through a path or through the jungle. The camera kind of showed you the big landscape of Deccan, and what Shambhaji is really fighting for and trying to protect. One thing that the directors and, of course, I guess producers of this film did is they really need to show the scale in which the armies of past really were. I mean, I think at one point in the movie they say that the Mughals had an army of like 800,000 soldiers and elephants and whatever, but of course the Marathas, they didn't have as many, but they were more tactical. Which, speaking of, in the opening scene, another thing I really want to touch on, sorry, I'm just trying to think of it all. Did you guys see the lion scene where Shambhaji falls into the pit? He's coming up like this, about to fight the big guy, but he falls into the pit, and there is a lion circling around, waiting to get his first meal, maybe for the day or in a few days. But the Chhatrapati, I don't know how you got, like, apparently this really happened. Let me know in the comments if it actually did in history. He grabs the lion and literally rips his jaw apart. I was like, that was so cool. So that had me a little floored. Had me hyped for the movie right away. I had to keep watching after that. It was too good. It hooked me right in the beginning. Of course, even further with Shambhaji, even when as he seems like a very nice king, ruler, but if someone turns on him or is a traitor to him, as you guys seen, he also brought in an elephant that crushed that guy's head. That was really, really grotesque, but it just shows what he would do for his, I guess, like his land, if you will, his domain. It was cool that he would go above and beyond. And also, Aurangzeb, even though he is the evil tyrant, did you notice that he didn't even go onto the battlefield? Like, I took that as he was really a big coward, because he would send his armies out to do his bidding, as where Shambhaji would actually go to the battlefield. He would command his soldiers. He would fight alongside with them. In a lot of cases, he would actually go ahead of them and be the first on the battlefield. So it kind of just shows you that he truly was the hero and the other tyrant was the villain. Because he just sat back eating grapes the whole time. I didn't really like that. And of course, he only really came out to go face to face with Shambhaji at the end when he's tied up, which I'll get to in a moment. Also, speaking of Aurangzeb, did you notice also, I liked how the directors, all of his scenes were more desaturated, more gray, more darker exposition, but when it switched to Shambhaji's scenes, it was very more colorful and happy and lifelike. That was something that really did get my attention, because I did really like how the directors or producers did that, is that you knew when that color scheme was upon you that it was, the villain's turn, it was the tyrant's turn to have some dialogue, commanding his soldiers. Obviously there was a lot of killing scenes as well. But then it switched to Shambhaji. You had some music, and you had flower petals, and you had confetti. You had happiness. You had his wife Yasabe was on screen. It was just love and just powerfulness. You know what I mean? And I really liked that, because you knew which character you were getting before you really got the scene that they were going to act out. And it was super, super emotional. So I really liked that about the movie as well. Now, I got to say, there were some pretty brutal scenes in this movie. I'm trying to recollect them right now. Some of them, okay, one that really stands out is when the army is approaching Shambhaji's, I guess, home territory, where they're like, no, we are going in. I think that's when they say there's 800,000 of them approaching. There's a scene where a woman is herding sheep. You know the one I'm talking about? And she says a storm is coming. Usually you sheep tell me when there's a storm coming, but it's not a weather storm. It's a massive army. And the very next scene is just screaming and screaming in agony. And the woman is actually on fire, running. It actually made me a little queasy. That was a little bit hard to watch. I respect that it was in the movie, but it just really made my stomach upset. And then, of course, the subsequent scenes after that is you see people hanging from the gallows, and the gentleman says they were hanging. There were more bodies than leaves on the tree, which was really, really gross. And then, of course, you had a scene where they had a cage and it was in water, and the dialogue says that it was full of children that they drowned. So that was also very hard to watch, being a parent myself. I found that very hard. I don't know. I realized it most likely happened in history, but to see it unfold on screen was a bit harsh. And then there was a lot of killing in it. I mean, we expected it's war. You know, let me say that right away. I understand it's war. I was prepared for some of the scenes, but they went really far with this. But I think they had to make the watchers like us very emotionally invested, and it certainly did that job. And one thing I did like about the movie is that they didn't just do a montage of the killings over and over and over again. They also broke it up a little bit in between, so it gave you time to process what you just seen. Of course, as we know, Shambhaji had to defend his terrain, and that is ultimately one thing that gave him the upper hand. No one would know Shambhaji's, Chhaava's homeland like him. So when that huge army, I mean, they had 800,000, he only had like 10,000, I think they said, or 25,000, something like that. Please correct me in the comments. I'm just going by my memory. But he used the terrain, earth, air, fire, water, all to his advantage. Of course, he started, as you know, swinging from the trees in the jungle. He knew that jungle better than anyone. It's their homeland. Of course, they attacked him there. Then there was that scene in the grass where they were moving through. It kind of reminded me of Jurassic Park 2, where the raptors are in the grass, if you know that movie. But yeah, and they approached with the grass in their face like this. That was really cool. And of course, they started slicing and dicing, and the army didn't see him coming. Then from there, we had him in the water. As you remember, the bow and arrows shot up at the water, hitting people in the neck. Really cool scene when he jumped out. That was really cool with the trident and everything as well. So that was really cool. I actually thoroughly enjoyed that because I love a good action sequence. And then, of course, there was a scene where they were buried underground and they jumped up from the leaves and the dirt. And again, that is how Shambhaji, the Chhatrapati, got the advantage on the Mughal army. They had to use their brain. He was super smart. I really like how the directors and producers put that into the film, because it just really shows that he was defending his land. It's not just a piece of property that he purchased or live on. He knows that like the back of his hand, and so does his soldiers. And I really thought that was a cool moment in the movie. And then, of course, we get to the very climax of the film, the huge fight scene at his own domain. Shambhaji he finds out that he was betrayed. He has a very, very small group of people with him. It should be sudden death, but it just goes to show that the heart of a true army can take on a larger one, because him and his right-hand man and all the soldiers that are with him that will not leave his side, they just run out as all the army is coming in that little city that they're in, or that little building. And he just starts taking out people. And of course, from the trailer, that was one of the things that hooked me, is when he grabs the anchor on the chain and starts swinging it and taking out all the army. Man, he was such a hero. And that is one of the moments, I think, that shows you just how dedicated Shambhaji was to protecting his people. It keeps coming back to protecting his people. That is something that he was good at. And they even say at one line, they say, how does it take 1,000 men to try to take down one man, or an army of 1,000 to take down one man? And it just goes to show, this is why the movie was made, about this person, okay? Shambhaji, Vicky Kaushal's character. This is why they decided to make this film focused on him and what he's done for history, because there was such a grand story to tell. As I said, the movie doesn't have many negatives. One of the things I guess I would have liked to see is a little more exposition on his dad before his dad passed away, because I would have liked to see how he started, and just more exposition as a whole. The movie was 2 hours and 37 minutes, so there was a lot of footage to take in, but there was just some scenes that seemed like I would have liked a little more background on who some of the side character was, like Jussy, his wife, maybe how they fell in love or their relationship. I don't even think they kissed on screen. I don't know. If you want to leave me a comment, is that something that's common in Indian film, is having the love interests and the the man not so much romantic on screen. Just not sure. I was kind of expecting a little more that way, but they more or less just hugged. And of course, they talk about her being pregnant, etc., etc., and he was really happy about that. But yeah, let me know in the comments if that's something that's usually common in these films. And of course, as I said, the title of this film is Chhaava. And if you're wondering what that means, it means the lion's cub. His dad was, I think, supposed to be the lion. He is the cub of the lion. And one other cool thing I found about this movie is, I don't know if you guys picked up on this, but there's a lot of scenes where Shambaji is on screen or entering on screen, and there's a lion roar or a growl in the background as like, even when he's preparing to speak. I thought that was really cool because they just make it believe that he has the heart of a lion. And of course, the lion scene from the beginning is just even cooler again and make it show that he can stand with the lions. So I really like that. It's cool. That was a great addition. Then, of course, we get to the very emotional ending, the actual ending of the film. It's kind of hard to watch. So if you're not into seeing stuff that is really gruesome and, really, it has a lot of realism put in there, you probably might not enjoy the ending of this movie. And if you are, of course, a fan of Shambaji Maharath, you just won't enjoy this. But I did sit through and watch it. I'm just going to explain kind of what happens as I took it in, because the people who made this movie, they did a really good job. Of course, after being captured and brought back to the tyrant, the Mughal emperor, Shambaji is beaten heavily. He is chained up. He loses all of his soldiers. All of his friends are also killed at the hands of this emperor. But they beat him severely. Blood is dripping. And they start, I think the first thing they do is, you can see they have this very coarse salt, and they begin rubbing it into his body, like rubbing it in. He has to be in pain, but the cool thing is that he does not show his pain. His face remains solid, and the emperor, the Mughal emperor, can't understand how is he not in agony, but it's because his will for his people and his religion is so tight. After that, I believe the next thing is they come and they have two pokers and they heat him up and they poke him in the eyes, blinding the man, the eyes that his lover, Jussy, looks into every night, who she fell in love with, has now been ripped away. It's so sad. Made me tear up a little bit because I felt for the character. The movie builds you up to feel for this character and what they stand for. And then, of course, lastly, the one thing he keeps calling out to his God, they remove that ability by removing his tongue. And of course, he still tries to utter the divine name to pay his respects and prayer to the goddess. So I thought that was really cool as well. Ultimately, we know that Shambaji does pass. He does die. He does succumb to his injuries. He is only human. And then, of course, we get the sequence that, again, the Mughal emperor thinks that his reign has ended, and now he is about to be the new Mughal king to take over India. But we find out that the Chhatrapati has been recrowned to his younger brother, to Shambaji's younger brother, and that it is not over. The Marathas are going to still persevere and still fight back because they don't want the religion to overtake their Hinduism. And I thought that was really cool. So that means, they passed the torch and someone remained, someone lived on to carry his mission. And that was really cool as well. All in all, seeing a battle between two different opposing religion and religious beliefs and seeing them stand up for themselves. And of course, one just trying not to be oppressed. One is just looking out for their people. The other one is just trying to take over. So it's a really great story based on true Indian history. If you are into very factual history, movie making, this is the film for you. It was great storytelling, emotional. The movie kept a great pace. I never found myself bored in any moment. There was a lot of musical numbers in there, just a lot of good audio. The fight scenes were ramped up. They had the drums and everything. The action did not look bad at all. There was, I don't know if there was CGI used or anything, or it was all practical effects. But again, if I can't tell, that means that whoever produced this did a very, very good job. All the actors and actresses that they've selected for this film was also very good. They played their parts perfectly to the knowledge that I have. And again, I urge you, if you know more about this film and more about the history than I do, please leave it down in the comments. I'm always trying to be educated, always trying to learn on our international films. And we do this for our international viewers. As I said, this was my first Hindi language Indian film that I've ever watched. I did try to watch KGF Part 1 or Chapter 1, but timing just didn't work out. I didn't get to finish it, but this is the full feature film that I got to watch, and it's all because you guys watched my reaction, you liked my reaction, and you gave me a lot of confidence to step up and really watch this movie to deliver a great movie review for everyone watching. So if you are watching this, it is now in America on Netflix. Please check it out. If you are somewhere else in the world, I'm sure at this point, Chhaava is on your streaming services. Please go watch it, spread the good word, and let's see if they make more films like this based on more historical, factual stories, because there's so much richness to draw on there that I want to see more. I want to see more. Guys, I really had fun watching this movie. Thank you so much for everyone who messaged us telling us to please check it out. We did this for you. So as always, we ask you if you can do something for us, and that is hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and leave me down in the comments below. Let me know, have you seen Chhaava the movie? Did you like it? And what can you teach me about the story that I might have missed in my first watch through? As always, thank you so much. I am the real Jussy of the Distorted Theorists. And like we always say around here, keep it real.